Hi, I'm Ken Gutman, Superintendent of Walled Lake Schools. It's a pleasure to work beside the 1,400 employees who are here to serve our nearly 15,000 students and their families. Together and collectively, we strive to make decisions that meet the educational needs of every child, every day. As you know, Walled Lake Schools has been through quite a transition in the past 3 years. Together, we completed a redistricting process in the 2011-2012 school year. The success of that process placed our more than 6,500 elementary students in 12 elementary schools. Next, we stayed the course as a community to close 2 elementary schools, which was a painful decision and process, involved a lot of change for many. Currently, we're completing transactions to sell the properties of both Maple and Twin Beach schools. We made a commitment to sell the property to residential home developers, and we are doing just that. The residents of our district supported our schools by renewing the $0.5 million building sinking fund that helps significantly to repair and replace capital equipment in our buildings facilities and provides approximately $2 million a year to do this. And this is a 10-year commitment from you that benefits everyone. We know that when our facilities are in optimal condition, we all benefit from positive property values. This past November, our community approved a $67.5 million safety, security, and technology bond to improve the safety of each of our facilities, again, to benefit all, especially our students. Walled Lake Schools is a school district positioned to meet the needs of our students and our community. We're doing everything possible to make decisions to move the district forward at a time when we're losing roughly 200 students per year. Funding is questionable, and the demands to educate our children are greater than ever in a rapidly changing environment. With that perspective, I want to give you an overview of our projected Walled Lake Schools 2014-2015 budget. To help me present this information, I am very fortunate to have Mrs. Terry Less, our Assistant Superintendent of Business Services. Welcome, Mrs. Less, and thank you for helping me explain our budget and our budget situation. For most of the past decade, we've been in a budget reduction mode as a result of declining revenue and, of course, a slight decrease in student population in our schools. So can you explain where we get our revenues for the district?
Yes, Mr. Gutman. The majority of our revenue comes from the state of Michigan. There is also a portion of local funding that we receive, as well as some state and federal funds in the form of grants, but those are for very specific programs. Here's a graphic showing that indeed the majority of our funding comes from the state.
I know you've prepared a detailed separate video about how the governor and legislature arrive at the funding for our schools, so I do encourage the community to watch that video. Ms. Less, it's a foregone conclusion that the majority of the Walled Lake expenditures are for salaries and benefits because we are a service organization. Can you explain what makes up our expenditures?
You're correct that some 85% of our expenditures are spent on salaries and benefits for the 1,400 public servant employees that provide the exemplary educational services and programs for our children and families. But as you can see, we use funds for supplies, utilities, and other necessary expenditures to operate our schools.
For the past several years, including this year, Walled Lake Schools has really enjoyed the benefit of having some fund balance or fund equity to help us with our expenditures. Can you shed some light on why our fund balance has dwindled and we have to make reductions to balance our budget?
Well, it's hard to believe that there was a time when the school district would actually add to fund balance instead of using it to make the budget whole. But for the past several years, we have supplemented the district's revenue with fund balance in order to continue all of our programs. But as the years have gone on, we've had to use a good majority of our fund balance. Here's a graphic explaining the history of our fund balance.
Unfortunately, with loss of the use of fund balance, budget reductions have become the norm in Walled Lake Schools. We've been inclusive in the process of what has been cut, and these have been painful times for all of us. What are some of the reductions we have made?
We have privatized both our custodial and transportation services, reduced more than 500 other positions in every area of the district, closed 2 buildings and have arranged for sale of those properties, institutionalized pay-to-participate fees for athletics, increased facility rental fees, have implemented many cost containment efforts such as an effective energy management program that has avoided millions of dollars, qualify for the additional funding established by the legislature with the outlined best practices language. The list goes on, Mr. Gutman.
Most importantly, all of our employees are given concessions that include both wage and benefit changes year after year. Our employees have changed prescription drug coverage, accepted additional costs for health insurance, given percentage wage reductions, taken furlough days, and yet they continue to work harder and harder. These employee concessions truly demonstrate that our staff care about our children and about our community. The bottom line is, though, through a myriad of staff and program reductions and cost containment efforts, we have made nearly $50 million in cuts since the 01-02 school year. We know that today we're facing a shortfall once again, while at the same time we're striving to address the Common Core, provide technology so we can give the new state assessments on computers, and ensure that all of our schools are safe so our children and staff are laser focused on learning. In the midst of these demands, we know we need to make $5 million in reductions to be able to present a fiscally responsible budget to our Board of Education so we may submit the budget to the state by our June 30th deadline of this year. With the Board of Education, administration, and the assistance of Mrs. Less's expertise, we want you to be aware of yet another list of potential cuts for the 14-15 school year. We do not want to make any of these reductions. However, we do need to provide a balanced budget. These are painful reductions that will affect everyone, students, families, and staff. Mrs. Less, will you please review the list of potential reductions?
Yes, Mr. Gutman, this has been an extremely painful process. All of these potential reductions are equally devastating. They include a reduction of 10 teachers due to the anticipated loss of over 200 students, reduction of 25 classroom paraeducators, again due to the loss of anticipated student population, capture into the general fund a portion of both primetime care and community education fund balances, passing on the increasing cost of credit card fees to our parents who use credit cards for payments. We would lift the 5% cap on school of choice students for 1 year only at the schools where there is space available for additional students to fill classrooms, but not to add additional sections. Reduce the elementary head teacher positions, make reductions in athletics, eliminate Project Rise at our high schools, increase class size, reduce secretarial positions, reduce assistant principal positions, restructure the district warehouse, reduce a special education work-based transitions position, reduce a manager position, sell other ancillary pieces of district property.
These reductions are obviously very painful, and we're obviously very sad to have a list such as this that totals about $5 million in cuts. As a very important reminder, these are potential reductions and not certainties. Only for the purposes of discussing finances and the 14-15 budget, we're currently negotiating with our associations. As I've already said, our employees have taken significant concessions to assist in balancing the budget previously, and we are grateful to them. We remain hopeful that our employee groups will work with us, as they have in the past, to ensure that we do not have to make the cuts that were just outlined. Mrs. Less, generally, will you share the cost factors for some employee concessions so we can be transparent with our community and of course, with our staff?
Mr. Gutman, some of the general amounts for possible wage concessions, a 1% wage concession for all employee groups is approximately $1.1 million. Each furlough day equates to approximately $608,000.
As I've said, our employee groups have been thoughtful, considerate, and have sacrificed in the past. We will, as always, have candid meetings with each of them to discuss these unfortunate potential budget cuts and how together we can come to a resolution. It's really important for our community to learn more about the 4 public education budget proposals being discussed in Lansing. Mrs. Less has completed a detailed video on these proposals and how each of them would affect Walled Lake schools. These videos may be seen on WLTV and are also on our district website, WLCSD.org. Mrs. Less, thank you. I, as always, appreciate your assistance in communicating a good budget message.
Thank you, Mr. Gutman.
To summarize, Walled Lake Schools is reviewing reductions of $5 million for the 2014-2015 school year. It's my goal to be transparent and to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to ask questions about the budget or anything else they're not sure about. If you have a question, a suggestion, a concern, a thought, or even praise, please feel free to share your ideas at budget@WLCSD.org. We will continue to provide exemplary instruction and provide a safe environment at every level and in every school. I appreciate your commitment to working collaboratively to help us make decisions that are centered on what is best for every child, every day. And I am confident we will do this and get through this together.